Hello, I'm Splattercaster, and this is a review of my new Wesco steel toe boots. These are the Jobmasters. The item number, I believe, is ST510100. First impressions is obviously high quality, good thick leather. Not the thickest on the market, but pretty darn close. And I think it'll be good enough to stand up to the test of time. We just have to see. Part of my reason for filming this is to hopefully film a later follow-up, which is something I couldn't really find much of on YouTube. I could find a lot of reviews of boots that had just come in the mail and were just starting to be used, and although that is what this video is, I'm hoping to track the progress of these boots and upload those videos later. So, to begin with, they fit me perfectly. They're just size 10. I don't even know what shape or size my feet are. Size 10 seems to have been working pretty good, so these are working for me so far. The hardware is pretty high quality as far as I can tell. I've heard some issues with, I don't know if it pertains to these boots in particular, but just sharp edges developing on these lugs and stuff like that, like the underside here. It does feel a little sharp to me, but so far I haven't seen any fraying. I've been wearing them for a solid day now. I've already gone numerous miles in them, and I don't see any real wear marks thus far on the laces, but we will see. The false tongues, I believe that's what these are a little bit skinny for me. I don't know if that's normal or not, maybe as the boot shrinks over time, those will kind of fill out, but you can see right here, they kind of are bulging up. You can see that bulge right there in the center of the screen as I flex. I'm not sure if that's just to be expected or not. And then up above that, you can see they don't quite fit underneath these portions right here. The false tongues are kind of sticking up. I don't know if that's a non-issue or not. Maybe you guys can enlighten me. Other things I noticed that are a little interesting. This chunk of leather here, I'm assuming this is attached to this. This is this one and the same piece of leather here, but it does abruptly end right here and gets tucked under, I guess. Not really sure how that works. I take it these guys know what they're doing. But that's one thing that caught my eye. Another thing that caught my eye down here on the outsoles is the seams right here. I don't know if these are supposed to be glued together or if these are just kind of free floating and tacked into place with the nails, but even a slight bit of pressure here, you can see right away that line. You can see that dark line there. I don't think there's any glue in there. I don't know if they're supposed to be or not, but those do come apart slightly, as you can see here, and I'm a little too afraid to go any further in that. And that's not really a problem or anything, so far as I can tell at this point in time, but I'm a little concerned that grit and dirt will build up in there over time. I'm planning on planting a lot of trees here with these boots and doing a lot of shoveling, pickaxing, and then just a lot of farm job kind of stuff, you know, manipulating tractor implements and kicking frozen things, big old pieces of metal that refuse to move, stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes over time. The proper tongue itself, this guy, they recommend you put it in an S curve, an S shape, and I've done that here. The S itself doesn't quite make it under these flaps here. I'm sorry for my lack of terminology here, but again, I don't know if that's gonna change as the boot shrinks or if that's exactly how it's supposed to be, but that's another thing that I noticed. Again, you can see similar things on this side. The S doesn't quite go over. And another thing that I noticed right away is these tongues don't quite come all the way up to the top of the boot. And if I kind of angle the camera here, maybe you can see what I'm talking about a little bit better. So if I have the laces through this last grommet here, The laces kind of sit on that upper tongue, but they do have a tendency to possibly slip off. It already happened to me once a little bit, and touch my leg there, which, again, these are pretty minor details, but I did notice in some of the product pictures that that tongue was a little bit longer, perhaps terminating up here where my finger is. And I don't know if that's just a function of time as the boots wear in, if that will change. Things will expand and other places will contract. And I do hear that the boots will fit way nicer once you've worn them in. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, we'll see how these go. I also have here for you my previous boots, which are not working boots. Let me preface this by saying these are not working boots. These are hiking boots bought at REI. But just to show what happens when you work in your hiking boots, these are Zamberlan's top shelf REI hiking boots, and they failed on me right away with the outsole being vulcanized to the leather. That on this right shoe here failed in the first 5 or so miles of me hiking. I was hiking the Superior Hiking Trail in northern Minnesota, and those failed right away. I mean, that is a little bit rugged territory, but it's really not all that rugged, comparatively speaking, to, say, maybe the Rocky Mountains or something. So that was quite disappointing. And that prompted me to buy these because I'm hoping that this stitch sort of deal provides a lot more durability than the vulcanized, or whatever you want to call it, the glued, or however they attach this rubber to the leather here. And like I say, I could have returned these to REI with their their exceptional return policy, but I'm not really a fan of consumerism in general, and I didn't want these to just go into a dump because they couldn't be resold in more ways than one, of course. So I said screw it, and I just wore them, and I destroyed them over the course of the next 3 years. I glued them together numerous times. I tried everything I could do. I even tried stitching them a little bit at one point, and they just refused to cooperate. Although the one thing I'll say is they kind of stopped degrading. They got to this point here, and here's the other side. This one's not so bad. They got to this point, and then they kind of held steady at this state of deterioration. They've stopped deteriorating, and they just kind of work now at this point. But of course, sticks and mud and water and all kinds of crap get jammed up in here, and they render them basically unwearable. So on a dry day, I can still wear these, but that's what prompted me to upgrade to the Wescos. I found myself doing a lot of work in these because I gave up on them as hiking boots. So anyways, back to the Wesco. The one last thing that I will mention, and I could use a little advice here even, is these stitches that I'm hoping will be far more durable. They come through to the bottom here. I've already picked up a little crud. But as you can see, they're already wearing there, and I am pretty sure I read somewhere during the research for all this that these threads are actually meant to wear out over time, or they're not intended to be permanently on the bottom there, because, and I really don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's one thing that I read somewhere, and I wish I could find the source. I might be able to dig it up, but that would make sense, because right off the bat, I've already walked maybe 5 or more miles in these, somewhere about that, and you can see they're already fraying, and little wisps of thread material are starting to splay out. So that's a concern if they're not intended to wear through, but I've heard that they are. So maybe if anyone's watching this and knows the answer to whether or not these are intended to be a permanent thread down here, that'd be great. Because I have a friend who said right off the bat I should just take super glue and just infuse these threads with super glue, like right off the bat, before I even get the boots dirty. Just super glue every one of these holes and just, you know, pack it full of glue. So I didn't really want to do that right off the bat, but I'm curious what people think about that, if these are intended to eventually wear off or not. So yeah, other than that, these are phenomenal boots. I mean, I've never owned anything like this before. I've been wearing hand-me-downs and that kind of crap my whole life. These were the first boots I properly purchased on my own, and you can see what happened to them. So hopefully these Wescos will be built to last. That's what I'm looking for. Any other notes that I have on fit? Well, they fit fine. The steel toe compartment is a little cramped for my big toe, but that's partially my fault because I wore climbing shoes, retired climbing shoes for a long time. I wore numerous pairs of those while longboarding, and that was an activity I was doing day in and day out, year-round for many years in my early 20s. So my feet eventually kind of got Chinese foot binded into a climbing shoe shape, and as a result, my toe is kind of poking right here since my feet are basically shaped like climbing shoes now. So that's pretty much a non-issue, because I think most people wouldn't necessarily be experiencing that. I'm also confident that as the leather kind of expands and contracts, that toe box will get a little bit more comfortable for me. So other than that, I don't have any other issues with the fit or anything. The last seems to be quite nice for my feet, foot binded though they may be. And the ankle support is a huge benefit. That's why I specifically looked for 10-inch tall boots like this, is because my ankles are spaghetti. And honestly, even with these guys, how the leather terminates right here, that's the bare minimum for ankle support for an individual like me with ankle issues. That anything less than that, and I'm looking at, you know, another really bad ankle sprain. So that's one of the things with these that right off the bat, I mean, you can even see the wear marks here, how my ankle has a tendency to just want to roll. But that's kind of why I went with these, is to have that thick leather augment my spaghetti ankles. So that's my review for now. I hope it helped you. Again, these are not the absolute most durable boots on the market that I've heard of, but they're probably a close second or third to whatever the toughest boots on the planet are. So time will tell. I hope to follow up with this video in the near future and let you guys know how it's going. Thanks for watching.